What's up guys, Manny from Motomillion. It's time to put Ohlins forks on our Panigale V2. Well, we got ourselves a set of the Ohlins road and track forks. They're the same exact forks that fit the Panigale V4 models actually. Non-S models, because if you have an S model, you have electronic suspension and there is no real way to defeat that system yet. But then again, if you have an S model, it already comes with something very, very similar to the road and track forks. In this case, we have the Showa forks on the Panigale V2. We're going to upgrade them with the Ohlins forks. And if you watched the last episode, we started off with our clip-on and handlebar setup. We're going to take our time today to finish all that off as well, so that our front end is all complete and ready to go. Well, the wheel is out, the fender is out of the way, the forks are almost ready to come out. I just got to loosen the upper and lower triple, and then this bike's going to have gold suspension. So here's a side-by-side comparison of your stock fork on your Panigale V2 and your Ohlins fork. The biggest difference is that your fork legs, which are these pieces over here, this is machined aluminum, and this one is a cast piece. Also on the top, if you take a look, you have your compression on one side and rebounds on the other fork leg compared to the Showa fork that you have. And obviously the internals of the fork are different as well. But other than that, everything else should be a bolt-on for this application. I'm gonna put this on the bike and then we're gonna do the other side. Before we start putting everything in and torquing everything down, the Ohlins suspension actually has a recommended setup, so it'll tell you how many clicks to adjust things or how to set stuff up. In terms of this fork, they're asking for the height of 4.5 millimeters. So we're gonna measure it from here, and we're gonna just make sure that our fork is sticking up 4.5 millimeters. This is right around 3.8. Well, all right guys, we got one side down and we got one more side to go. And then we'll talk a little bit about the final setup of everything once the forks are in. But I got one more fork to change right now. Well, everything is torqued down for the front fork, except the clip-ons, but the clip-ons, we'll adjust them in a second. While we're here, instead of putting the stock fender on, we actually grabbed ourselves a full 6 carbon fiber front fender. It's easily lighter, obviously, and we kind of kept the same theme going, so we're just going with a gloss front fender on this bike. And then we're still not 100% sure if we're actually going to paint the bike or not, because if you guys watched the video where I took the bike for a ride and I took a good look at it, I really like the color scheme. We might just do something to play off with the gray of the bike and use some carbon pieces to accent some of these plastic pieces. I'm not 100% sure yet, but for now, this gloss fender is going to go on. Our forks are on, our front end is completely torqued down. So our calipers are torqued, our axle is torqued, and also the axle pinch bolts are torqued. I want to show you something really quick, because you guys might have seen videos like this online where people show off the rolling resistance of their front wheel. This bike in particular does not have ceramic bearings. Ceramic bearings are great, but this wheel is a high quality wheel that comes with high quality bearings. And if you spin the front wheel, you'll see that this will go on for quite a bit of time before it even slows down or even comes to a complete stop. Obviously, we're not going to let you sit there and try to watch this to come to a stop, but by looking at it right now, you could tell that it's got very little resistance, if any. But either way, I want to stop this. I'm going to continue on. Let's get our handlebar set up, install our reservoirs, and then this project will be done, and we'll figure out what to tackle next on this Panigale V2. Okay, well, what you guys saw me do is I actually sat on the bike, got myself into somewhat of a comfortable position to start my baseline for my clip-ons, basically. And then I moved the handlebars around to make sure we have enough clearance with things that are obvious. And then I decided to put my side panel on to get the final clearances that I want, just the minor adjustments to make sure everything clears. And then now I want to torque everything down, test it again side to side. And once we know the angles of everything on this side, we're going to mimic on the other side, because this side actually is the side that needs the most clearance with everything on the handlebar. And the other side, I'm sure it's going to be fine once we copy exactly this side. And if you're probably wondering how I'm going to do it, I'm going to show you a pretty trick tool if you haven't seen it before. It makes it very easy to exactly copy the angle on this side to the other side. We're done setting up the right-hand side clip-on to make sure that we have clearance. Happy to report we have plenty of clearance. And remember I said that I have a tool to make the left side super easy. This is the tool, it's a tool by Motion Pro. Basically you find a constant flat surface like your upper triple, you set it in place, and what I did was that I actually put it against here, so it's touching at 3 points, 1, 2, and 3. And you tighten this piece over here and this stays like this. And then it's completely symmetrical. So like this is your right hand side. When you do this, this becomes your left hand side, which makes it super easy to set everything. Yes, I know the grips are not on. I'm going to try to compensate for that, and then we could get our final measurements again after we add our grips, because the thickness of the grips are the same on both sides, so it's not going to be an issue. Okay, so our handlebar angles are set. Everything is clear in terms of fitment. So when you go side to side, there is nothing that hits anything in terms of the body panels. If you know, we're missing a couple parts, but let's go over what we installed on the bike so far. So we did our Ohlins forks in the front, we did our upper triple, we did our clip-ons, and with the clip-ons we put our new WRS switch panels that looks like the MotoGP switches, but it has all the functionality for the road. Once I have the bike up and running, I'll show you guys exactly how these switches function. It's a well-requested video and it's common questions that are asked, so we'll have a separate video for that. And we also have our Corsa Corta brake and clutch master cylinder. Let's get to the point of what's missing. Well, yes, I know the bodywork's not completely back on, guys, but our system is not bled. We're missing our reservoirs, and also we're missing one crucial part, is our steering damper mount. So the frame mount is obviously on because it mounts onto the frame. But when you get to the level of changing this many parts on a motorcycle, even though they're off-the-shelf parts, you have to kind of think outside the box and come up with solutions to make everything work together as intended. So in this case, yes, the damper is technically mounted, but it's not doing anything. Luckily for this, there's an off-the-shelf part. I got the diameter of this fork over here. It's a 50mm fork diameter right in the bottom of our clip-ons. We'll get a clamp that clamps on here. It'll hold this in place, and our damper will work just as intended. What's not working out as intended is our reservoirs. We're missing our reservoirs, and as I was about to finish this video off and show you guys everything plumbed and bled, we came to the realization that what we did on our Panigale V4s in the past is not working out on this bike. It probably, I mean, it's not working out, guys. So this is the piece that we use. This is a magical steel that we have from TWM. This is a custom brake reservoir mount. This piece of metal, you could bend it fairly easily, but once you bend it, it stays in shape. And on the Panigale V4s, we usually run it off of our master cylinders or something off our handlebars, and we're able to use this. So this goes on here on the reservoir, and this piece gets installed onto, let's say, a part of the bike that's around here. But this is too short, and even if it was longer, I think it looked pretty ridiculous to have a reservoir mount piece this long. So we have a dilemma. The dilemma is that we have no place to mount our reservoirs. We have to come up with something. And I want to mention to you guys, as I always do, our videos are not instructional videos how to install parts. We're just showing you guys the process of our builds on our motorcycles that we have here at Motomillion. And in this case, the process is this. We're going to have to make some sort of a custom mount. And the way to do it, I think there's two ways. We could probably get some clamp mounts that Rizoma makes and mount them somewhere here, which I think is not ideal. It's not bad, but I don't think it looks particularly well. it makes this area look really busy. Follow along with me. I think if we find a way to install this over here, just right here, I have enough visibility as a rider to see my dash, to see anything that I want to see on the dash, but also it looks super clean and it seems like it was intended to be here. The only thing is that we're going to run a reservoir line from here to here, so we just got to make sure this nipple here is higher than the point of our reservoir mount for our master cylinder. But what does this mean? There's no way to clamp this onto here. I'm going to have to take this upper triple off, and we're going to have to mark a position that has enough meat that we're going to drill it, tap it, and then make some custom bracket that holds this here. And then for the sake of symmetry, we're going to run the same size reservoir on the clutch side and the brake side. And I think that way it's going to look beautiful. I don't know what you think, but the decision is taken. Once I take this off, and I'm sure there's a lot of spaces here that when I put my finger under, I could feel that there's enough room. I'm sure we'll get an engineer to take a look at it at the machine shop as well. Once they give us the go-ahead, I think that's what's going to happen. But unfortunately, what's not happening in this episode is that you're not going to see this motorcycle's handlebar setup fully finished. I'll reserve that for another video where we show what we did onto our upper triple piece. And also, it gives us the time to think of what to do next on this motorcycle. I know for a fact that we have the rear shock to replace. We're going to be going off with that. But another thing that I got to think about is the paint scheme of this motorcycle. So we actually have a planned paint scheme for this Panigale V2. But after looking at this bike, I kind of fell in love with the gray and the silvers that's going on this bike. I really want to leave it as much as the OEM colors as possible. I don't know what you think. You know where to write your comments for that, and I'll be reading to get inspired. But I think it's set at this point that we are keeping this color scheme, and we'll just dress it up with more carbon fiber. We have to find a solution for the rear seat because we're not going to run the passenger pegs. But unfortunately, that's it for this episode, guys. On the next episode, you guys can expect to see this handlebar finish for sure. We're going to continue along with our build for our Panigale V2. But until then, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Until next time, guys, have a good one.